Welcome around the Centrepiece, and we have our beloved presenters interviews. And today we have a lovely presenter for you. We have Rosie Turnbull, who's popped in for a cup of tea.
Hello, everybody.
So lovely to have you, Rosie.
Thank you very much.
And we've prepared the usual questions that we have. And we'll go on with the first question for Rosie. And here we go. So, are you ready, Rosie?
Yes.
Yes. So, getting to know you, Rosie, could you provide us with some insight into your background? Where do you hail from? And what factors or experience have shaped your journey thus far?
Wow.
It's a big question, I know.
Yes. So I hail from Ireland. I grew up there and happy childhood, third of four children, and went to university. And after university in Dublin, started to fulfill my ambition and dream as a very young child. I always had this desire to see the world. So I went on my journey to work my way around the world. So I started off by going to Canada. Of course, en route, I met my husband-to-be, Ian, there. And anybody who's been to us here in the foundation will know Ian, who's quite a keen singer and has built the Nature Sanctuary and the Singing Chamber. But anyway, I went on around the world, and I was always fascinated by different cultures and what different people believed in. And I remember being in Asia and just being fascinated watching, the sort of hand movements of the dancers, I think particularly in Thailand, and really, just being very interested in how the different traditions were for, the movements and all that. So I came back after a year of travels and working, and met up with Ian again in Canada, and that's where we lived for a while, where we were married and where we had our 3 children. So I think that, oh yes, you also want to know what influenced. As a child growing up, my sisters and I went to Greek dancing lessons, and these were classical Greek dancing, like throwing the javelin. We wore tunics, and I don't really know, and my sisters don't remember either, why we did this. But anyway, that was part of our upbringing, part of our childhood. Friends were doing ballet, but we were doing classical Greek dancing. And of course, growing up in Ireland, there was a lot of music and dance around, and in gym lessons we had, I think, figure marching, which was something that was to bring rhythm, and so quite a lot of that, and also Irish dancing in some of our gym classes as well, the Walls of Limerick and a few things like that. So and it was also the 60s, 70s, a lot of rock and roll and jiving and this and that. So that was always part of my interest, and ballroom dance as well, of course. That was very much part of my growing up. So does that answer that question?
Yes, I'm quite interested in your the Greek dance.
The classical Greek, yes. Yeah. I must try and find out more. I think there was a discussion in Grapevine here at one point, and I can't remember what the outcome was of, I think it still exists, but I must get in touch with, or see if I can track it down a bit more. Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Grapevine's the UK magazine. Oh, yes. That's what Rosie's talking about there. Yes. And we'd love to know more in the future about this.
Yes.
For now, we'll go on to history. We're going to do 2 questions together. I'm going to say the 2 questions. Rosie is going to answer them because they're quite similar. So it's about the history. What initially drew you to the practice of sacred/circle dance, and what inspired your interest in integrating it into your life? Now, the next question: when you got into sacred circle dance, when did you first encounter it, and how did the environment or the community shape your understanding and appreciation of it? Could you share a pivotal moment or experience that solidified your commitment to the dance and as a spiritual practice?
There's a lot in there.
A lot in there.
Well, that's great. Yes, no, we'll cover that.
Yeah.
So when Ian and I were married and our children were very young, we came back from Canada to Scotland, where his parents had retired to, and to Ireland, where my family were. And it was during that time when I was in Ireland, Ian came to do Experience Week at FIndhorn, at the FIndhorn Foundation. That's the only way you could visit in those days. We'd read about FIndhorn when we were in Canada. And so Ian came and did Experience Week, and he was so inspired. And he also met Sacred Dance there. And it was at the time when Bernard Vosin was still coming. It wasn't that long after he had started coming, because he came in 1976. He was invited by Peter and Eileen Caddy, two of our co-founders, and through a mutual friend, Sir George Trevelyan, who had been very much part of the foundation in the early days, and he was a friend of Bernard Vosin's. So dance was very much alive in the community at that time. And I then did Experience Week, even though I was still nursing our youngest child. Mm-hmm. But through Experience Week, I too encountered sacred dance. And I just remember, Misalou, because I knew the music, and I knew of Nana Muscuri, of course. Mm-hmm. So I just remember that's sort of stuck in my memory very much. So it was very much when we came and we both done Experience Week, and we stayed on, and very easily and quickly I got into supporting Anna Barton with her different workshops. And so through the 80s, because we came here in 81, and through the 80s, Anna was doing particular workshops on meditation in movement. When Bernard would come to visit, Anna would then be part of those workshops, and she was the one who wrote down the steps. Mm-hmm. She devised the code that's still very much in use by so many groups all over the world now, of remembering the steps. So Anna was pivotal in then continuing the practice of sacred dance. Bernard died in 1986, so it was just those last years of his life. Mm-hmm. And so I joined Anna in helping her, supporting her with, she was doing the dance and I would be doing support. And it was very much in those days her programs that she did at Equinox, which was the meditation in movement, and bringing in the Paneurythmy, which was another dance tradition through Peter Donath. And we would start every session in the morning with Paneurythmy, which was done as if and when possible outside. It was from the spring equinox to the autumn equinox. And we would do those. And then, of course, I learned a lot. That was my sort of teacher training with Anna, mm-hmm. was just being part of those workshops and others when she was still doing a lot in the programs of the foundation. And then when she was no longer as well physically, I took on a lot of her groups that she had been working with in Ireland and in Germany and in Italy and different European places. So it was a very natural, easy transition, and it was a joy. And it was, through that, we deepened into the spiritual practice of what was the dancing that Bernard brought, the Eastern European dances that he brought, and the meanings of them combined with what was active and alive in the FIndhorn Foundation at that time, the attunement, the centerpiece, which Grant is using the name for, of, with the candle, and the alignment of the horizontal, attuning to spirit, bringing it down in the connection with the earth. So we have the vertical alignment of God, humanity, and nature, and then the horizontal alignment of dancing with our right palm up, receiving the energy, and our left palm down, giving the energy around the circle. So that was all the combination to make what we know now as sacred dance in the world, bringing the two inspirations together, Bernard and what was alive here in the foundation. And I just, was drawn in very easily to that. And it was very much a part of a spiritual practice here. And at that time, this Universal Hall was being built through the 70s and into the early 80s. And there were a lot of young men who would come off the belting site, and women, of course, but, just dancing as part of their weekly practice. So, and both at Cluny, which is another campus of the foundation, and here in the park. So, is there anything else?
I think you've covered that, and I love this idea of Bernard being there. Maybe I'll ask a question near the end about this. We'll keep that in mind.
Okay. And of course, Gabrielle was also coming at that time.
Yeah.
I do remember standing in the lineup at the community centre with Bernard and Gabrielle getting her lunch. I do remember that. Yes. Yeah. So it was just very accessible.
Yeah. It's lovely to hear these little things about people that we know very well, but we don't get to hear the little personal details. And this is what these questions are for. So the next question is, how do you feel about the form? Reflecting on your journey with sacred dance, what aspects of it ignite the most passion within you, and why? Now, Rosie, I've seen your passion for sacred dance weekly on the Tuesdays. Down to recently, Rosie has been sitting out sometimes, and you're still here. You're still there. So this is passion at its best. So, yes.
Right. Okay. So yes, the last you've noticed when I've been in a lot of pain with a trapped sciatic nerve, and I think anybody who's had that knows what the pain of that is like. And it's taken a while to be able to get the right medication and treatments to be able to master the pain. Master isn't perhaps the right word, but to come to a place that I now am in of being pain-free. But through many months in the winter, I was in a lot of pain. But when I could, I came to the Tuesday night sacred dance sessions. And now that we've started the Saturday mornings as well, I've come as much as possible because I really believe and have experienced the healing power of sacred dance. It's been very tangible for me because that has also been the purpose. Bernard wanted to bring in the holy aspect of sacred dance, holistic, that we bring our whole selves into this form, I think. And so it's been very pivotal for my experience. And now that I'm in less pain, I'm able to join in more. But it's been also part of the group being able to continue to dance and welcome those of us who are perhaps not as physically able at different times in our lives, and to be able to include. I mean, a lot of the time I just dance the steps in my own space behind the circle, so that I didn't drag the circle, because I wasn't able to move so quickly. So I didn't want to drag the circle back, but I was able to participate and also chair dancing. So a lot of the dances, I would be sitting on the chair and doing the movements, especially if they had arm movements, but also moving my feet as much as I was capable of. So to really be able to be inclusive, that's very much been part of my interest in the whole sacred dance journey, that they're so inclusive, all ages, all abilities and capacities. So I've directly experienced that, and you've directly seen that experience.
Yes, I've seen it the last few months, and it's been a great reminder for me of my journey at the start when I first came, I don't know how many years ago, 13, whatever it was, that this is what happened to me. But to see it with Rosie has been very special. And can we just look at this and see if you need to say anything else about this? Yeah, it is, the passion is there with this question. We can see this because she dragged herself with pain to the circle.
Well, for the achievements at the beginning and end. But I mean, also the supportive. What I love is, the supportive hands on either side within the group, and also the group's willingness and ability to include. I mean, this is really the big one for me, is the inclusiveness and the harmony in the group. That when we all can adjust to the beginning of the dance and the end of the dance to make sure everyone's in the circle. To make that container and everybody be in it, so to speak. Yes. Yeah, so there was another, it's a double-barreled question, this one. Have you faced any challenges or obstacles in your path with sacred dance? And if so, how have you navigated them? That's kind of, I don't know if you want to add more to this about the form. Yes. Yes, I'm not sure if I'm going to directly answer the question, but I definitely learned a lot from Anna, and then of course with Bernard and the other teachers who've been here, I think here at FIndhorn, what I need to say is actually my work has been mostly leading workshops and then bringing sacred dance into the workshops. I do, I've since developed into just leading sacred dance workshops, but mostly when I was working with Anna, of course I was learning from her, but then I was also working with Eileen Caddy and with Dorothy McLean, other co-founders here of the community, and I would bring in sacred dance into those week-long workshops or weekend workshops or however long they were. I do remember the enthusiasm, particularly you asked me for a pivotal moment, and the enthusiasm of doing Dorothy's workshops. She would suddenly say, oh, everyone's getting too tired listening to me. Let's do some dance. So she felt that just to mix things up a little, people didn't want to sit all the time just listening to her. And she also enjoyed the dance. And so we would jump up and I would have to be very aware of, Dorothy by then was well into her 80s, and to do dances that were simple enough. Sometimes we were on a carpeted floor, which, as you know, isn't always the easiest to dance on, and do really lovely simple dances. Like I think we mentioned Berserker, a woman's dance from Serbia, and also would do the dance Shogun, which Bernard had choreographed, a peace dance to the piece of Welsh music by Vaughan Williams. And he called it a peace dance. And I sort of adapted it more and more within Dorothy's workshops, which were entitled God, Humanity and Nature. So whatever that was for people, God, cosmos, spirit, humanity, and then nature, Gaia, the earth. And the dance, we would be scooping up the earth energy, bringing it through our heart energy, and opening up to spirit, and then rejoining hands in a circle to have the horizontal alignment as well as the vertical, so the axis would meet in us. And so that was always a very popular dance in those particular workshops. And I also would take on some workshops away from FIndhorn, because Diana by the early 90s was no longer able to travel so much. So I took on some of her groups in Berlin and in Munich, and her in the 90s, she and I did a joint teacher training in Ireland. She would go over one weekend a month and teach the dances, and then I would go over the following weekend, the next month, and the opportunity then for people to practice with me. And over a 2-year training, that's how people away from here were able to learn sacred dance. So it's always been a joy for me too to bring in sacred dance into groups where people are least expecting it. You know, they've signed up to do Dorothy McLean's workshop or Eileen Kelly's workshop, and they also get introduced to sacred dance. And of course that expands. I mean, spirituality here for us and for me, it's all about growing into more of our own potential. So if it would expand people's understanding of the spiritual, and that they get back into their bodies, so there would be a lovely awakening really for people to include sacred song, sacred dance, and other things within the workshop and the content of that. And I remember looking across the circle at people, and I could just see this man thinking, you know, this was a pilot from somewhere, and he'd come to join a workshop, and he was like, I could sort of see the words coming out of his head, like, if my mates could only see me now. and he would be dancing. And, you know, for a lot of people it was, and we often, and I'm sure others get this feedback, that they are loved, how much they remembered loving dance as a child, and then, you know, they no longer kept doing it
as they get older.
Yes, so just opportunities to expand into their potential, their wholeness, and lovely.
It's like, I believe there's a dancer in everybody.
Well,
there's a potential.
Yes, I
There's
mean,
a
people
potential.
say that of, you know, everybody, if you can walk, you can dance.
Exactly.
If you can talk, you can sing. I'm not so sure I'm so good on the singing one, but I love the dancing one. And I've done a lot of workshops with Ian, because he also loves the Teze singing and the devotional songs. So we would do workshops together on sacred song and sacred dance. And that's what we went to Joanne a lot and did that, as well as other, you know, representing FIndhorn. And the game of transformation has been a big part of supporting sacred dance as well, you know, because again, people would be sitting in the game of transformation, and then the balance of getting up and dancing. And of course, we were often in combined spaces because we didn't necessarily have a particular room set aside to do the dancing.
Yeah. I've seen dances done in very small rooms and large rooms in the foundation. I mean,
Yes.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yes.
So you've kind of answered the next question, but anything you would like to add? I'll say it.
Remind me.
So that's okay. So who did you learn from, I wonder?
Yes.
Can you describe the role of the mentorship or guidance from others in your sacred dance journey? And is there anyone in particular you admire and look up to in this field?
Well, I obviously learned everything really from Anna, and then, you know, saw Bernard too, and the way he would teach. And there's just been so many. I think, you know, here in the foundation, especially with the festivals, that, I mean, I've been part of those all along since they began. And before that, we used to do a spring festival of the arts way back in the early 80s, you know, before it became much more sacred song and sacred dance and music. So I I really would say I've learned from absolutely everybody, even on our Tuesday night groups and all the people who've come through. And one of the things I very much valued in my early days, starting out teaching in the Experience Week, I really valued that one of the co-vocalizers of the Experience Week sat down with me and gave me a whole length of time on feedback. He went through every dance I'd done and told me what I'd done well and what I could do better and how I could improve. But I just really appreciated that feedback. And of course, that requires that we are all open to feedback too. And I was just drinking it up. So it's been a gift, really, to have had that. And
I think it's marvelous when you can get somebody to mentor you in this way, the kindness, who comes in at the end and stuff like this, who can actually, you can work with constantly throughout a certain amount of time,
well, this was separate from the group. I mean, the group had gone. This was after, and
but he did this constantly. Maybe.
Yes. I mean, I was thinking that was always how we learned.
Yeah,
it was on the job training.
Yeah. On the job training, it's fantastic. The amount of mistakes we make on the job, but it's a fantastic way of learning as well.
I also want to mention actually that Anna and I had a young teenage Laura Shannon in one of our groups. Yeah. In the 80s. So I think for me, it's the interplay between being the student and being the teacher. Mm-hmm. It's like going into those roles on a continuum, that one moment I could be teaching something, the next moment I can be the student. And, so I really appreciate all those who've done so much work in the Sacred Dance Network to do the research and understand more about the particular rhythms or qualities of these dances. And my favourite are still the original dances that Bernard brought from the Eastern tradition, Eastern European tradition. And it's the ancient melodies that really speak to me, and I just love them. So I feel very
we'll
grateful.
Come back to that because we've got a question about that. So next question, Rosie. How you see the spiritual side of the community? How do you see the intersection between sacred dance and personal transformation or spiritual growth in your life? This is a personal part. We're talking about the dance, of course, the spiritual and the dance together.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, it just is coming into a space of meditation in movement. So it's coming into a space of, learning the steps, of course, and wanting to make sure that, they're not sloppy or whatever, that they continue as best we can in the form that they were intended. And I think for me, of course, the attunement process is hugely important. And I think that will come in later about the rituals. I can't say enough about, for me, how important that sense of stillness, aligning myself to with the intention of the particular group I'm going into, opening myself up to spirit, asking inwardly for support, to be a channel for spirit to flow in and through me to help this particular group, whatever it is. And although, of course, I prepare as much as I can for each group, I also have to be prepared to throw that out the window and work with something different, just because of the group or their needs or the abilities or whatever it is.
Yeah, you can never tell what a group's like until you're attuned with them. It's quite amazing, isn't it, that energy flow?
Yeah, so attunement for me is hugely important at the beginning and end of a session. And I mean, at the end of the session, it's also about the gratitude that we can move our bodies as best we can, hear the music as best we can, and just to be grateful for the faculties that enable me or the group to dance. So that's
with that, the next question, you're right, is the rituals. It's about the rituals. I have this question because I'm always fascinated by how people do the ritualistic side of if they do that in the sacred dance. Are there any specific rituals or traditions within sacred dance that resonate deeply with you? And if yes, why do they hold such significance?
Well, I mean, the attunement, as I say, is for me hugely important. And, I also believe in the energy of sacred dance, like really taking the energy, I'm mostly using it for healing and sending that out at the end of the session. And also to hold the energy at the end of each dance. We just don't at the end of the dance just let go our hands, but we actually hold the energy and work co-creatively with what we're invoking and what's coming through. So yes, rituals are important for me, and I think also in something as conscious as doing the spiral when we're at the winter solstice here in this hemisphere, and we're quite a long tradition now of dancing the spiral before it's laid in the Universal Hall, as we go in and let go of the dark and come into the light, returning light, and picking an angel, and working with this angel quality, which has come through the game of transformation, which is part of another inspiring form that's come through both sacred dance and the game of transformation. Both in 1976, we consider the birthdays of both those very deep workshops here. There was something else I wanted to say. I think also simplicity is important in the rituals, not to make them too heavy or complicated, but just the simplicity of just opening up to enabling the flow of the dance to come through.
I totally agree. Was the simplicity of even lighting a candle?
Yes, all of that.
Yes. This is
and the invocation.
Purest.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love when people do this in silence, and they light the candle in silence together. This is one of my favourite things because it's so simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, actually, and we're talking about this more and more, but just holding the space and the silence between the dances.
Yeah.
So and really working a lot with stillness. There's silence, and there's also the stillness, which I think is in each one of us, to come present with our own stillness and bringing that into the larger group. I mean, for me, all of these rituals are a way of increasing the group consciousness. And I think that's a lot of what my work in the FIndhorn Foundation has been in terms of working with spiritual education, is what was I going to say? Yeah, group consciousness, and bringing that more. I mean, even when we do sacred dance in the experience week, it's really the first session for that group. They haven't signed up for dancing at all, but it's the first session that they come together as a group and meeting their vocalizers and really deepening their own connection with themselves and beginning to connect with the group as a whole. So that's very much part of it, and so my workshops have really been a lot about working with group consciousness and what are the forms, and sacred dance is a big part of that.
Yeah. Thank you. Very good. So much experience there, and so many people you must have met in this journey. I mean,
it's been a real pleasure and a real joy.
It is amazing.
Yes,
it's an amazing experience to do these workshops. I've seen it in action
Yes.
here. So
Yeah.
we'll go on to the next one, and it's about style. We've kind of covered it, but I'll just ask you if you want to add anything, if you just listen to the question. Have you explored different styles or cultural variations of sacred dance? And if so, how have they enriched your understanding of this art form? Maybe on a deeper level, you could say something about this idea.
Well, I think I've
I think
covered some of it, but I mean, that's what I love actually about sacred dance, and I think it goes back to that interest as a child in different cultures and what different people believed in and all of that. So for me, it's also about, I think Anna talked about this, of getting into the skin of the people who are dancing the dances. Bernard, would go and collect the village dances, hoping to keep them alive. And I think that's our duty now, as the generations come through, keeping these lovely ancient art form rituals alive and the different dances. My particular passion is in the Russian dances. I've done some workshops with Henny Koenigs, and I really love the style of that, the kind of very upright, good deportment, gliding, and so many of the Russian dances are really quite small steps, and really it's a unique form. But then every culture has a different way of bringing their dances. And, I love the exuberance of the Greek dancers, the young people with energy at the front and the older women in the middle holding the line, and the children and families at the end, or whatever way that they come. And just being attentive to all the different unique styles and forms, and, really understanding that's what we're trying to do.
Helping the cultural side of it to get
keeping them alive.
Styles, like we do a lot of the Russian ones. I always think of the best one I always think about is Francesca, when she does the knots and things like this with which is wonderful, and these gliding women, very fast gliding women.
They're lovely, aren't they?
Amazing.
Yes, I mean I went to Russia a couple of times to work with another person who's been involved with Kitesh, which is people with orphans going to families and living there. So we were doing a group game of transformation, and they all knew the songs and the music, but they didn't know the dances, because some of them, of course, had been choreographed or them half remembered, and but they were delighted to be actually dancing and moving with their own their own cultural heritage. And one of the things you've asked me, I think, already is, any obstacles I have come across, and I particularly think of being in Russia and getting to the workshop venue, which it was a new community trying to get established. And we had to ford a river in order to get to the workshop space. And there was a tremendous thunderstorm on the day that we had planned to do this. And then we were going to do a session of sacred dance. And the space was quite small and limited. And of course, when the thunderstorm broke, we lost all our electricity. So there was no music. But also we had to get the hay in before it got too wet. So, just having to be so flexible to be able to change in the moment and, do something else. And and also, work with what's there and not be precious, but just muck in and do whatever is needed. So that was one of the obstacles. But of course we worked with it and it was fun.
So, my dear, this is the future, looking at the future. So we're looking ahead at what So looking ahead at what your aspirations or goals are within the realms of sacred dance, and how do you envision uh, continuing to cultivate your passion for the future in sacred dance?
Well, I mean, I just will continue to come as much as I can and be part of the group. It's definitely my tribe, one of my tribes. So I definitely will continue as long as I can. And even as I say, if my mobility decreases or whatever, but to still be part of the group as much as possible. And I think the future, of course, is that there's several things here, because I think it's been recognized, dance, as a very therapeutic form that, more of us as we get older, there's a keen interest in getting people to be more active. And really, it's a therapy for people to be part of a group, so the social isolation is looked after, and then to dance, which is using more of the body than So, and also the joy in it that people find. So I hope I can contribute to that. I think they also, the people doing the research, finding new dances, exploring new ways. I mean, I think of Laura, of course, and I think of Shaki, and I think of many different things. And of course, I learned a lot from Yves Moreau and bless him. And also, just to get more and more understanding. It's also been in Ireland, I know, because a lot of the people from the religious orders came to the workshops that Anna and I did. And so there were priests and nuns, and they were doing a lot of work also, even back then, this is 15 years ago, with refugees and asylum seekers. So it was a way of bringing young people together to share their own cultures and introduce them to others, the host nation or whatever, so that there was an understanding and then an appreciation of different cultures. And, I remember being in Western Australia and an older Greek man coming to the workshop, and he was very active in his own Greek community. And I think I did the dance Costolata, and he just loved it. And so, just the spread of the dances, I think it helps us to understand and be appreciative and grateful to the communities that have nurtured these. And therefore, I think we learn from that and learn from each other, and hopefully then can be more welcoming to all the different cultures that are all over the world now.
Thank you.
Did I answer?
Yes. We have the two little questions at the end, which people always we have joy and fun with these ones, because this one for many people is very hard. It's the most simplest question. What is your favorite piece of music and dance? Now, you can try this question, Rosie.
Well, I notice it has just changed over the years. But basically, I think I would say all the original dances and the ancient melodies I really love. So, I mean, I know it's a choreographed dance by Bernard, but Shogun is definitely on the list. And then over the years, it has changed. I know, all of Yves Moreau's dances I just love. And, as I slow down a little bit, they're definitely not as active as I would have been in my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So it just, it varies. But I there's just been so many. I really am very grateful.
I'm always amazed when I'm in the circle with Rosie. If somebody says, "Oh, do you remember this?" and you have this little ding, and I see you going, "Oh, I know, I remember that one," So it's always great to have this amount of experience and energy in the circle that can hold these memories.
Yes, it's
Because they're
interesting because
very
I might not
important.
remember the name of the dance. I mean, I'm always impressed with the people who do,
Yeah.
but it's in my body. The dances that we've done, and I think this will be true for so many.
Yeah.
It's in our bodies. That we can pull out the steps, and the rhythm in the music. Yeah.
It's like the other night when we were doing an Israeli dance, and I knew I had done it before.
Yes.
And then I went, oh, dang, yes, last year we did it with Mariella.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a fun thing to do.
So my dance at the moment, of course, because we did it, I think, in the last couple of Tuesdays, was Davareki Deka,
Oh, yeah,
which I consider, and I remember Eve saying this, the tapping of the ground is awakening the earth to plant the seed. So it's definitely a spring dance. So, and then to also take it on a larger context is if you're planting seeds in your own life, what is it now at the beginning of the year that you want to plant, that you would like to see come to fruition later in the year? So it's just weaving this in for people to really go deeper themselves into the dance. As I say, it's not just about coming to a session, learning a few steps and then going home. It's just how can the dances and the music and the inspiration.
I always feel there's a fermenting process, like, for a dance. It's like takes a good few times for it to sit there and be in your body as well. Yeah. Thank you, Rosie. Really nice explanation. And the last one, let me see. What would you like to see the future of sacred dance to be? Now, I think you've covered that.
I think I have. I've talked about, certainly that more and more people, the weight bearing and it being considered therapeutic, and just hoping that more people. I mean, there's a lot of children's dances, and we've all done groups with children.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the sacred dance we do here in the foundation is really has been about working with different nationalities. We've had German experience weeks, German speaking, Portuguese speaking, Japanese, Italian, all sorts of different nationalities. But we've also had youth experience weeks. My daughters used to often run those, so they would invite Ian and myself in, and we would really introduce them. And often too we would mix up the Cayley dances. Ian was often a caller for Cayley dances, the Scottish dances, and then mix in sacred dance in with that. And but also what I'd like is that just doing it with all the different age groups, and hoping that will continue. That that it's in the bodies of a lot of these children who have already been dancing for such a long time.
It makes it easier when you're older, especially like we do Cayley dances here in schools when we get taught in school. So when you get older, it's easier to pick them up. So this is great.
All our three children have a memory of their gym teacher with a megaphone. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, I remember those. And the boys and the girls not want to touch each other.
Well, exactly. Yes. I think that's where I also came across the priests and nuns in Ireland, particularly the priests, doing these dances with the young immigrants, refugees or whatever they were, asylum seekers, and just making the boys and girls mingle. And of course, it's not so awful once they've done it, but that they have to hold hands. But before we finish, Brand, I wanted to also put a shout out and a thank you, a huge gratitude to all the organisers who have, taken the risk to set up workshops, to invite people to go out and, because they have to be fairly confident they're going to fill a workshop if they're going to take it on, and that it be economical. And so I just want to really say thank you to that group of organisers all over the world, and the new people coming in. It's a great way to start. If you start organising a group and then coming in and taking on some of the teaching yourself, if that's your interest. So I mean, I think there's a few things that I also thought of mentioning, but definitely I want to say thank you to the organisers. They tend to grow older as we do, so there's a new generation coming through for them too.
There is, yes, we can see some of the newer ones coming in. But Rosie, the other thing I just wanted to ask you, your memory of Bernard, what do you remember as him, as a spirit, as a person? What can you give the people who are watching just your memory of him?
Yes, I mean, just so sprightly, just light on his feet, sprightly, joy emanating through him. And as I say, at that time, there was just a lot of young energy in the foundation, completing the hall. And it was just, there was just so much joy, laughter.
And I remember you talking about when the Universal Hall was half built and they've had the roof on, and they were just dancing in the hall on the floor anyway.
Well, there's pictures of that, of Peter doing.
Because I remember you talking about this.
Yes, when we came, it was just getting more towards completion. Ian was working on the back wall and doing the stonework. The roof was on, but this was 81, and then of course, it opened for the first conference in, I think, 83, 84, the World Wilderness Conference. So, yes, I mean, I think that was more, well, it was everything. I mean, Anna would remember that more, than at that time. It was just other things I wanted. Yes, it's been such a joy and such a healing journey for me, especially recently. And, just meeting so many people and having the real gift. I mean, I was lucky too in that my daughters live in Canada and my son was out in Australia. So when I would go to visit them, I would always be in contact with the sacred dance groups there. So, I've been fortunate. And with our time in Japan, I've been fortunate to travel a lot, and also with Dorothy and Eileen and Anna and others. So it's been a joy.
I appreciate you coming. The people who come to these interviews with knowing, and I think, Rosie, you understand this. This is just to give Rosie's some historical memories, really, to the younger generation, and with other people who've become beloved presenters. So it's an informal way of just hearing and sharing, really, isn't it, Rosie? And Rosie's brought a lot today, which is beautiful, absolutely beautiful to hear. And I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Brent.
And I hope it brought up some beautiful memories for you.
Oh, lovely memories, yes. Yeah. And, to Renata and to Carolina and all that, just a really lovely Benedicta in Berlin. Yeah, just all the connections that have come through sacred dance. It's been a huge part of my life and our life, as with my own life with Ian, of course, and that, we've done a lot of weddings together, and it's just been a joy. Yeah, and meeting so many lovely people. I'm sorry to not name everybody that I've been inspired by, but, know that I've learned from all of you.
I understand that. It's such a difficulty when people come on to get interviews or anything. We all like so many facets of the sacred dance, presenters and people who bring dances, that we can't cover everybody, can we, really?
I didn't even mention Zenos.
Well, we just go through a list now.
Let's stop there.
So, Rosie, thank you so much. It's been a privilege to sit with you. And I'll see you on Tuesday, of course.
Well,
and
Saturday first.
Oh, yeah, yes. Saturday. We're doing Saturday, of course.
Yes.
And what I'll do is I'll put down underneath, there'll be a little description with some notes from Rosie. And thank you for watching, and thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you very soon. Bye for now.
What a joy.
Take care.